Yes, hello and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the Waffle. You can watch us on the BackChat YouTube channel or you can listen on wherever you get your podcast. Well, we're hot off the heels of an exciting round 7, which saw 4 of the 5 games decided by 3 goals or less, and now we go into the WA Day weekend. On this episode, we're going to review all the round 7 games, and we'll also have Peter German, the Perth Demons coach, on the show today. Paul Persic is my name. It's a great pleasure to have your company, and I'm joined today by the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, the most electrifying man in the history of the WAFL. I speak of Mark Readings. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Paul. That's the best intro I've ever had. I'm not sure how long it took to come up with those lines, but it sounded like I was about to jump into the ring with Muhammad Ali. But that is gold, and thank you for that very warm introduction. I appreciate it sincerely.
Because it was a big round, and it deserves all the big talk that it can get. You know, with those 4 games decided by less than 3 goals. I mean, talk about an exciting competition so far.
No, absolutely, 100% right there. And to be honest with you, the tightness of the competition is reflected in the ladder, where first place and 6th is separated by only 2 games. And, of course, Peel on top by that game. But 2nd, 3rd and 4th, it's only percentage between them. And those matches, as you said, the only game that really blew out was the one that I was at, which was the East Perth versus the West Coast Eagles. But, yeah, great to see some of the clubs that have had trouble getting victories on the board doing so, notably Perth, East Perth breaking a 3-game losing streak. And what about that game in Broome, which was terrific as well. So lots to talk about.
It certainly will be. And we'll also have a little word before we get to Peter German in just a moment. Mid-season draft, that's coming up in a couple of days. There are a lot of players that are in talks of getting picked by AFL clubs, Jack Buller being the most likely. We're also hearing that Robert Hansen Jr. of Subiaco may be picked.
Yeah, I think Robert Hansen Jr. is a moral to go. And it's just a question of when. Fremantle very much into him. Clubs have spoken to this Subiaco player, young man, I think 18, turning 19 this year. But he's, of course, played Colts footy, but has also graduated to the league. So there's a lot of interest in him. From a perspective of the WAFL, 23 local players have nominated for the draft. Look, there's only going to be a small percentage picked up. Jack Buller had a modest state game, a little bit modest, and you saw the game against East Fremantle, but we know what he brings to the table. I guess from overall perspective, the Eagles with first pick are likely to go with Ryan Marich, who has been a very good player for the Gippsland Power. So, but from a WA perspective, Jaden Hunter from Perth, interesting to hear what Coach Peter German has to say about the possibility of losing him, having kicked 5 goals in a winning effort against South Fremantle. But this is the mid-season draft. It is tough. We talk about Jaden Hunter possibly going to the AFL. Not great for the Demons, WAFL-wise, but I think we can't hold back players from getting their chance at the top level.
Absolutely, and that's really what the mid-season draft is all about, getting young players and those that have been in the system before to the next level. Just before we go to Peter German, of course, WA Day round coming up this weekend. Every game will be live, free and in full on the AFL app, so make sure you tune in. This is Around the Waffle. Paul Persic alongside Mark Readings. Now, one of the big upsets that was seen in round 7 was Perth. 4-point winners over South Fremantle at Fremantle Oval. It was a really big scalp, and their coach, Peter German, oh, how elated was he? And I'm glad to say he joins us on Around the Waffle today. Germo, welcome to the show. Must have been a huge win.
Yeah, I guess for us, any win's a big win, but I don't know. I don't know if it was that much of a surprise, was it? I think we've been playing some reasonable footy without getting results, but yeah, no, we were pleased to have a win, but we've got to get our heads back to earth and then get going again because we play a really good side this week.
Yeah, especially with Claremont, looking to bounce back after a loss. Tell us about, we were just talking about Jaden Hunter may possibly be going to the AFL via the mid-season draft. What did you make of his 5-goal performance on Saturday?
Yeah, no, Jaden was great. Once when the game settled a bit more, he really started to come into his own. He certainly straightened us up. I would have liked to have had him maybe earlier in the year because really he's he come off a knee reconstruction. A lot of his summer was about just still getting his knee right, rehab. So he didn't do a lot of training with us. So that's why he started off he actually didn't even start round 1 and coming back through the seconds, and then that was only his 3rd senior game. So. Yeah, look, he's worked really hard to put himself in a good position to, we really felt that he was going to be important to us, but yeah, look, who knows what happens in a couple of days' time. But yeah, look, as I said, he helped us straighten us up and and when you've got a focal point like that, it certainly gives the players confidence in someone to kick the ball to.
Peter, talking about that win over South Freo, it was a terrific effort. And look, the efficiency of your side going inside 50, you only went inside 32 times and you kicked the 12 goals. So you made the most of your entries. And I guess in many ways, I've really liked some of the performances. I mean, Cooley got a lot of the footy on the weekend and he was prolific, 33 touches. And Charlie Thompson, someone I saw against East Fremantle, he's been outstanding for you in the midfield in 2023.
Yeah, Charlie's come over from WAFL. So I'm good friends with his uncle. I used to play footy with Darren Steele at North Melbourne. So that was part of the connection. He come over. He was really looking to just come to a club. He sort of had enough of the VFL in terms of how it was just AFL orientated. He wanted to actually come to more of a club environment. And he's seen the vision that I've got and the club's got, and he really liked that. And, so he's come over and it's been able to add so much on and off the field. And yeah, look, on the weekend he was definitely one of the key components to our win, winning the ball inside, and certainly gives the outside players plenty of balls. So yeah, look, him and Jack Cooley and were very good. Corey Burns still playing a good, consistent footy. So our midfield's starting to evolve, and so it's as I say, it's for us. It's always a work in progress. We've still learning how I want the boys to play and learning about each other. And that's I think once you get that synergy, then things start to happen, and we're starting to see a bit of that now.
It's been a long-term rebuild that you've stated from the outset, and especially with a lot of the young players either coming over from interstate or coming through the Colts system. It's obviously a very important step in your rebuild, taking on one of the big finals contending teams and getting the job done at Fremantle Oval, which is often a hard place to win.
Yeah, I still look at our backline. I think our backline is what we've sort of built the team around, and there's no experience really there at all, apart from, say, Matty Taylor, Jacob Caniglio as well, good leader for us. But it's built on, Singh, Johnson, Avery, Daniel Hill, and it's. I think at one stage, with our average age or games in the back line there was about 12 senior games. So it's young, but with Darren Rumble as our defensive coach, he's an outstanding teacher, Rumba, and he's got them really playing some good footy. So that's where it's sort of starting from, and we're building the team from. And as I say, you sort of add bits and pieces along the way, but as I say, we've still got some players. We've actually got a fair injury list, to be honest, at the moment. We've got about 14 players, and so that's really sort of holding us back in a couple of areas. Like Trent Manzone, we picked him up, and he's out for another 4 or 5 weeks, and there's a few other guys. So yeah, look, it is a when I say rebuild, it's almost like starting from scratch, and but that's the exciting thing, I think.
Absolutely. League signs are good, and also the Colts doing really well, and top of the table. That's a really positive sign for the footy club. Hey, Germo, are you a fan of the mid-season draft, or how do you look at it? Given you're in the WAFL clubland now, it could be quite detrimental.
Well, put it this way: last year when I wasn't coaching WAFL, I couldn't care less. But now I'm invested heavily in what we're doing at Perth, and it's a big task. In terms of recruiting and managing players, we've got a support staff really second to none in terms of doctors, physios, trainers, a lot of people who invest a lot of work. You've got about 5, 6, 7 full-time people here. And you're really investing a lot of time, and all of a sudden, this is how I look at it. Coaching Subiaco in 2004, a young group sort of coming through. Matt Prittis is a 19-year-old, and a few other young kids. And Brad Smith, halfway through the season, had probably kicked, 40 goals. Imagine if he had been taken halfway through our season in 2004. There's no way we would have won the premiership that year. And I just think it does rip the guts out of your team. Like, if look, and as you said before, I heard you say that you don't want to ever stop any young kids, reaching their dreams. But, I would think that if they're going to have a mid-season draft, it should be internal in terms of the AFL. So if there's players unhappy at Western Bulldogs, then they might get, traded to Geelong or whatever. But when you actually start picking the eyes out of but you only have to look at the young fellow who got picked up from East Perth last year as a forward. He's gone down, hasn't played one senior game, and he's played every game with Pure Thunder, and that really ripped the guts out of East Perth last year. So, there's different ways to look at it. As I say, you never want to try and deny any young fellow his dream, but in terms of what it actually then does to your club, it can actually sort of rip a fair chunk of the heart out of your team. So, and then they go, and then I heard Pav say in his commentary, but the clubs get compensated. Well, can I tell you, 10 grand doesn't compensate for, what on the field, the player you lose on the field, like a quality player. So, yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm caught in between because I've always prided myself on trying to get players to the next level, but when it gets ripped out of your team halfway through a season, I don't know. I find that hard.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you make, Germo, especially when, there's a young player like Jaden that, he had a great game on Saturday, but, very young kid, still got a lot of untapped potential. And, if he does get picked up, will be a detriment, I will say, to the Demons. But nonetheless, was a big win for your team. Good luck on Saturday against Claremont at Lathlane. That one should be an absolute beauty. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate it, mate.
No worries, boys. Thanks.
That was Peter German, the coach of the Perth Football Club. Did raise some very good points on the mid-season draft.
Yeah, of course. Once you're inside the WAFL bubble and you do get affected like that, it is significant. But and he said, I'm conflicted here because young players get the chance to play at the top level. But his idea that the mid-season draft should happen internally is one that, look, I think is worth considering. But the AFL's a beast that I think runs its own race. I'm not sure they're going to listen too much to the effects of a WAFL club or a Sandford club.
Yeah, only time will tell. Come the mid-season draft in a couple of days. By the way, of course, every WAFL game, heading into the WA Day weekend, every WAFL game is streamed live, free and in full on the AFL app. Of course, there's one game on Saturday, two on Sunday, and two on Monday. This is Around the WAFL. Mark Readings and Paul Persic. All right, let's get into the game, Skeet. First of all, in Broome, East Fremantle getting the job done against Claremont, and that win puts them in touch with the top two. Yeah,
huge result for them, isn't it? And credit to them. Look, Cody Leggett kicking 3 goals, Dylan O'Reilly 2, and it was a really good performance. Spoke to Matty Jupp yesterday, and he said, look, ideally that match would have been played at 5 o'clock, 5:30. I know they played a couple of local teams, but in terms of a spectacle and a marquee match, that might have been a better idea because it was really warm conditions.
Yeah,
but from a East Fremantle perspective, beautiful tune-up for the Derby on Monday, and obviously just getting that extra couple of days for the public holiday Monday to get themselves ready for South Fremantle. Terrific. So Bulldogs are going to find it really tough, I think, against the East Fremantle side that are moving in the right direction.
Especially when they've got players like Milan Murdoch and Tom Joyce in form in midfield, and also Fraser Turner, the former South Australian. What a game he had, 25 touches and 5 marks. Claremont, on the other hand, they butchered so many chances up forward. They had about 5 or 6 more inside 50s than East Fremantle in the last few minutes of that last quarter. They just couldn't make it count. If they'd have kicked 2 or 3 more goals, they maybe would have snatched the game.
Yeah, and the inside 50 count was pretty even, 47 to 45 in favour of the Sharks. So it was a really good result for East Fremantle and keeps them... Look, let's be honest, they made a prelim last year. The next step, logically, is to play in the grand final. I just think they've got the tools to do that this year, and they've ticked off a very big scalp, as you say, in Claremont, who have shown some variations with their form this year.
Yeah, and that's only their second loss. Their second loss, and both their losses have come to a side currently in the top 5. So Claremont, they're still right there. They're still contending at the moment, but their form a little bit up and down, especially with players coming back from injury. Jack Buller, still a little bit underdone after that calf injury early in the season, but they also missed Bailey Rogers. He's out for another 3 weeks.
Well, he's huge, isn't he? He would have played state footy, so without him, Claremont a lesser side. But yeah, they've got out of jail against Swan Districts. They've had some moments, but they'll be there. They'll play finals, and just a question of what position they occupy.
Yeah, how far will they go? Only time will tell. Now, the second game at Pentanet Stadium, West Perth and Peel Thunder. And Peel Thunder prove why. At the moment, they are the team to beat. 9-point winners over West Perth, despite being 3 goals down at half-time. And what about the impact of Neil Erasmus, Ben Hancock, and Corey Wagner in midfield? They delivered.
They did indeed. Now, West Perth had 60 inside 50s, which generally gives you a victory. Not to be. It was Tyler Keitel's 150th match. He kicked 3 goals, so he provided what he could. But just looking through the game yesterday, Peel had to really dig deep because they were, he said 3 goals down at half-time. They were further behind in the first half of that match, so that's a huge result for them. Seb Queck, 3 goals to him. And you talk about the mid-season draft where he goes from East Perth to Fremantle and then ends up playing for Peel. That's massive for them. But with Corbett and Liam Henry both bobbing up with a couple of goals, this Peel Thunder side, dare I say it, looking pretty ominous, a game clear on top. And while Fremantle are travelling well in the AFL and also with limited injuries, this Peel Thunder side are destined to play and have a big say in September.
Absolutely. Of course, their most successful start, dare I say it, since 2016-17, their premiership years. On the other side of the coin, West Perth, 3rd loss at home this season. That doesn't often happen with a West Perth team, reigning premiers who are now feeling the pressure at the moment, I would say, heading into the Derby against East Perth.
Yeah, not much difference. You look at how Geelong similarly have been travelling in the AFL. Well, West Perth called their first game against Claremont, the grand final rematch. They were beaten there. Yeah, I think you make a good point with not being able to create that real cauldron that they normally have at Pentanet Stadium and that home ground advantage. That's sort of dissipating as we speak. So rival clubs not as fearful of going up there. And West Perth, call it a premiership hangover, call it what you like, but other clubs are finding out ways to beat them.
Absolutely. Tyler Keitel, like you said, game 150, great career. He's had 3 goals in a losing effort. Nathan Murray, he's been waiting for his league call-up. He's been in the league side for a couple of weeks, 26 disposals and 7 tackles. Not afraid to get physical at the coalface.
Yeah, they've got some good mids. Look, they've got, of course, Shane Nelson kicking a long goal from about 50 metres out. They've got Aaron Black still going around. But, yeah, they might just need to have a bit of a reset mid-season to make sure they're in the right space to have an assault at the back end of the year. So they're not done by any means, West Perth. But, yeah, they've been a bit clickety, a bit like Claremont, just unable to get into a good rhythm for long periods of time this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game on Monday, make no mistake about it, to see where they're at. Also for East Perth, which we'll get to in just a little bit. And the next game on Saturday at Leederville Oval, Subiaco and Swan Districts. How unlucky can the Swans be? 5 times now that they've lost by under 10 points.
Yeah, and you'd have to say they had to come. I think they kicked the first 3 goals. They're up by 20 points early doors in that one. And then, as it turns out, involved in another game decided by a kick or less, and they're on the wrong side of the ledger again. Thomas Edwards takes the mark of the year, most likely, in the dying moments, gets the chance from a tight angle, let's be honest, difficult kick to win the game for Swans. He misses, and more heartache for the black and whites. They have been close, you were so right. And how many games have they won this year?
Just the one.
Just the one game, and, well, if things had gone their way, they'd been able to convert their chances, they'd be just inside the 4 or the 5 as we speak.
Yeah, very unlucky, the Swans. And, I ought to feel for Andrew Prune as well. He must be having a couple of headaches as we speak on how do you not get those close wins done. They should be in the 5. I said this when we previewed round 1 when you came here earlier this season, and that the Swans should have a side in the 5 on paper. You just can't feel that they are so unlucky. On the other side of the coin, Subiaco, they had their usual suspects making an impact. Liam Hickmott, 34 touches, and again, Zach Clark. He must be an early favourite for the Sandover, Zach Clark.
Yeah, he's been the best ruckman in the WAFL, no question, this year, in my opinion. He's just been outstanding, and he's been able to come back to the competition and the club that he had success and do so well. Interesting, again, numbers-wise there, is that inside 50 count was 51 to 36 in Swan District's favour, but that didn't translate to a victory, which is, as you say, such frustration for the coach. They're doing a lot of things right, the black and whites, but unfortunately, the end results haven't been there. And Aidan Clark, 31 touches and kicking one of the goals of the season. But they had 2 massive highlights, but unfortunately, they walk away from Leederville Oval with a loss on Saturday.
Yeah, and hearts broken once again. And I have to say, you said this about West Perth and Claremont. Their form a little bit topsy-turvy. Same can be said for Subiaco. They're currently in the 5 at the moment, but can they stay there at the end of the season?
Yeah, I think they're doing enough, aren't they? They've beaten some good teams. We saw them knock over Claremont. They've been, I suppose, in many ways, last year, we always think an aberration for Subiaco, but I think they've got enough quality there. Maxie Walters, by the way, kicked a terrific goal, and he's an underrated player. So I think Subiaco will get there. They've got Ben Sokol, who in attack will always give them that outlet. So I suspect Subi will play a part. Bottom part of of the 5, I think, will be where we see them.
It'll be interesting to see where they go against Peel Thunder, top side on Sunday at Mandurah. Now, the fourth game on Saturday, Skeet. I know you had a bit of a smile on this one. Perth and South Fremantle, the Demons, with Matty Taylor, a defender, getting the last goal of the match to sink the Bulldogs at Fremantle Oval. Like Germo said earlier, it's another big building step for the Demons.
Absolutely. But conversely, I suppose what it means is South Fremantle, who are perennially a contender for the premiership, they've just got the one win officially next to their name after erasing the salary cap deficit of 2 games. So as we speak, they're 3 games outside the top division. It's going to be tough for them to make an impact now. But Perth, look, they've done a couple of things right. Look, I've sort of tracked them against Subiaco, first match of the season, fell away in the second half. They were poor against Peel, poor against East Perth. We saw them against East Fremantle and absolutely saw some real improvement from them there. And after that, of course, they've been a lot better. So Peter German, great to speak to him to find out where the Demons are at. They've still got a lot of injuries, but a massive boost for them to get that result down there in Fremantle.
While for South Fremantle, they had the return of Jake Florenka, and he came back into the side like he never left. 28 disposals and 10 tackles and 5 inside 50s. Another great performance from what I term as a real complete midfielder.
Absolutely. And South, it's a new look side, obviously. When you're missing Hayden Sloyth and Matty Parker does return, but they've certainly probably would love to get more output from some of their mid-range players. I mean, Zach Strom kicks 4 goals. He's just an evergreen player, isn't he? And as you say, Florenka with 28 touches, Tom Bletchenden and Glenn Byron and Matty Parker all in the 20s. But South Fremantle, they're unfortunately they're up against it now. That loss particularly hurts given the ladder as it stands.
And also with the derby at the WAFL coming up on Monday, it's going to be a real test. If they lose that one, dare I say it, their season is stuffed like cold turkey, to be frank. And then the final game on Sunday, West Coast and East Perth. No surprise about that one. East Perth, after 3 straight losses, back on the winners list.
Yeah, and look, they did it pretty emphatically. Although having a chat to Hamish Brayshaw yesterday, it was a contested game, and they had some young players back. Campbell Chesser at West Coast, Elijah Hewitt, Callum Jamison all played, so that was interesting from an AFL perspective. But East Perth, Bonicelli, I think it is. Bonicelli was missing, so therefore it was Schofield, not our own Will Schofield, a bloke who kicked 4 goals at Mineral Resources Park, was named Mitch Schofield. 4 goals to him. They had a lot of contributors, didn't they, in terms of the spread of goal kickers. 30 scoring shots, 22 goals. And I think as we know from earlier on in the season, it's their midfield group, supported by Scott Jones in the ruck, Shoemaker, Brayshaw, Crowden, all able to generate plenty of footy for their forwards. So it was a predictable victory. It was a good victory, but I suppose just what Ross McQueen would have wanted after falling away. 3 wins, 3 losses, but hopefully gathering something heading towards that match against the Falcons.
And also a key weapon in defence too. Plays more down back, but can shift up the ground. Tom North, he's been in terrific form as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a wouldn't say a complete performance by East Perth. I think they were outscored in the last quarter by the West Coast Eagles. They certainly, 4 goals apiece, and 4-5 to 4-1. So they were outscored by the Eagles in the last quarter. That wouldn't have pleased the coach.
This is Around the WAFL. Paul Persic and Mark Readings reviewing round 7. All right, Skeet, just before we wrap up today's show, it's time to cast the votes for the Around the WAFL Player of the Year. And there's going to be a few that may get some opinions stirring. 1 vote goes to Angus Schumacher of East Perth. Great game from him. Continues to make an impact in midfield.
Absolutely. And, of course, the Simpson medalist from a couple of weeks ago for WA. And you talk about the Sandover medal. They're going to be sharing some votes, or maybe snaring from votes from each other, the East Perth midfield, but Angus Schumacher, one of the elite players in the WAFL.
Absolutely. Corey Wagner for Peel Thunder, he gets 2 votes, 4 marks, 4 tackles, 4 inside 50s to go with his 30 disposals. Took the game right out of West Perth, especially in the second half. 3 votes, Fraser Turner, the South Australian. I like his form this season with East Fremantle, especially with those inside 50s in the second half, making such a good impact, and 5 marks too in midfield. He, I reckon, has been a valuable addition to East Fremantle.
Yeah, it's certainly an unheralded player, and not one of the players that automatically springs to mind when you think of East Fremantle, and you talk to Milan Murdoch and Cody Leggett's having a big season, John O'Marsh. They've got some weapons, O'Reilly, etc., but he's a guy that certainly has added something to them this year.
Now, 4 votes. This one may cause a stir because it's from a player in a losing team. Aidan Clark of Swan Districts against Subiaco, including that goal of the year. 7 inside 50s and 31 disposals. What a season he's having.
Yeah, absolutely. He gets the votes there. When you say it was a losing effort, they lost by a kick, so it wasn't... they're the sort of matches that good players can come up with 30 touches, kick some great goals and not get the ultimate, which is the 4 points. But he's a fine player, been one of their best at Swans for a while.
And I know you like this one. The top gun of round 7. The 5 votes goes to Jaden Hunter of Perth. 5 goals in a match-winning performance. His efficiency up forward, just brilliant for a young kid who's got so many years of untapped potential.
Absolutely, and we've heard from Peter German, he's had some injuries, but the delivery of the ball, and I watched some of the service he received at the weekend, was good, but he still managed to finish, and it's going to be fascinating to see where he ends up, and we presume it'll be at an AFL club, and could be playing footy this weekend, for instance, which would be extraordinary if he goes to a club that's somewhere near the bottom of the table.
It'll be a huge dream for Jaden Hunter, especially coming back from so many injuries over the last couple of years. The leaderboard after round 7 looks like this. Milan Murdoch still out in front on 9 votes. Then it's Tom North and Jai Bolton tied on 8. And then we have a multitude of players on 5 votes. Ben Sokol, Shane Nelson, Jarvis Pina, Taylor DeLacy, Aidan Clark jumps up to the 5-vote bracket, and also Jaden Hunter of Perth. And there are many on the 4, 3, 2 and 1 votes as we end round 7, and we look forward to round 8. Skeet, thanks very much for your help today. I look forward to your call on Monday. The WA Day Derby at the WACA should be a ripper.
Yeah, can't wait for that, and look forward to sitting here with you next time where you can come up with some absolute pearls from your script. Thanks so much for being part of it with me today.
No problem, Skeet. All the best on Monday. We thank you very much for your company here on Around the Waffle. Don't forget, we've got socials in operation, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. We really do appreciate the support. Give us a big thumbs up and like our pages. You can also watch us on the BackChat YouTube channel and listen to us wherever you get your podcast. We'll be back on Thursday to preview the WA Day weekend and what a round it is going to be. We'll see you next time.